This doesn't look like local wildlife.
Hey gang, welcome back. So, the post-credits on last week's X-Men 97 and Captain America and Black Widow show up and slide a Weapon X file across the table to Logan. And Logan, hunched over, just growls that he's getting the team together. Cut to this week's episode, Weapon X, Lies, and DVDs. And oh boy, it pays off beautifully. The episode gets away from the apocalypse plot and the time travel shenanigans. It focuses squarely on Wolverine with his band back together, which means it's a very unconventional squad of people who didn't really like each other and who aren't usually heroic, going into a snowbound lab to deal with whatever Dr. Abraham Cornelius has been cooking up. What they actually walk into is a cross between a horror movie's kill count, a brood invasion, and a raging Omega Red just thawed out. This messed up squad he's put together has a name, and it's Team X. Yeah, X-Men, X-Force, X-Factor, and now Team X. In the comics, Team X was a covert CIA Black Ops unit tied to the Weapon Plus machine, the outfit that took mutants, wiped their memories between jobs, and gave them targets no official superhero would ever touch. So what keeps the team really interesting is that it's never had one fixed lineup. There's the classic comics roster, there's the X-Men 97 version we just watched get chewed up, and then there's the film version that swapped in a bunch of killers and gave even Logan the ick. So today we're running through every major member of Wolverine's hit squad, where each of them actually came from, what they can do, and the one feat apiece that earns them a seat on this roster. Quick warning before we start, there will be spoilers for this week's episode from here on out, including who doesn't make it home after the mission. If you still haven't watched Weapon X, Lies, and DVDs yet, go do that first and come back. Still here? Let's go.
I'm back, baby.
Wolverine. I mean, do we even need to get into him? He's been the face of the mutants for a quarter of a century, if not more. And if there's one mutant every person in the general audience knows, it's Wolverine. Thanks in no small part to Hugh Jackman having played him from 2000 till he's 90 probably. But still, let's recap him real quick because there's a lot more to him than the Fox films show. James Logan Howlett is a long-lived Canadian mutant whose mutation seems simple. He has heightened senses and an extreme healing factor. Of course, he's also got 6 retracting organic bone claws housed inside his forearms. But the metal claws that have become his signature, the constant memory issues, everything else he's known for, that's all done to him. The secret government research facility Weapon X is behind this. They took him, strapped him to a table, and bought an adamantium to every bone in his body, a process that killed every previous test subject they tried it on. But Logan's healing factor prevailed, and he survived it, but lost all his memories. Rather, Weapon X scrambled his memories so thoroughly that Logan spent decades unable to tell which of his own recollections were real. When Team X came about, Logan wasn't just used as an assassin. That would be too simple. No, he was used, wiped, and used again, with false memories layered in, and then again and again, never once knowing the full extent of everything he's done. On a hit squad, his job is the ugliest one going. He's the point man, the tracker, the first through the door, and the last one still standing. His senses find the target, his healing factor means that he can eat the damage nobody else can, and his claws mean he never needs to be armed. But for his standout, forget the Berserker stuff. Forget the breakout from the facility in the original Weapon X arc that every Wolverine video includes, because the Berlin job is the one that shows what a Black Ops Logan actually looks like. Team X was sent to steal the carbonadium synthesizer, the one device that could stabilize Omega Red's poisoned body, and Logan pulled it off. Then he did something colder. He hid the synthesizer where nobody would ever look, inside a corpse in Berlin, keeping it out of the hands of his own handlers as much as the Soviets. Decades later, he slipped back into the city to retrieve it before Omega Red's people could dig it up, carving through a small army of ninjas by himself to get there. That's the whole Omega Red saga from the opening arc of X-Men Volume 2 back in '92. And it's the definitive proof that the scariest thing about Wolverine on a mission isn't the rage, it's that he's thinking 3 decades ahead of you. And in 97's version, he lies to his entire team about the mission. He didn't come to shut Weapon X down, he came to get his medal. Damn the consequences, which, as we've seen play out, are severe. Sabertooth. Victor Creed is what you get when you take everything that makes Wolverine dangerous and remove the guilt. The similarities are almost insulting. Healing factor, enhanced senses, claws, the same feral instincts. But where Logan spends his life clawing his way back toward being a person, Creed leaned all the way in and enjoyed the fall. He's usually positioned as one of Team X's senior operatives, the one who helped to bring Logan into the fold and kept the squad in line, and the one perfectly happy to butcher civilians if the mission calls for it. Or if it didn't, he's not fussy. On a squad like this, Creed isn't the subtle option. He's the terror weapon, the guy you deploy when you want to target Broken in a way that makes everyone else reconsider their life choices. It's seriously hard to pin down one moment that can define him, but I'll have to give it to a Team X mission taking place at the Soviet Space Center at Thawed-out. Wolverine was sent to assassinate the cosmonaut super soldier Epsilon Red, and Sabertooth showed up at the last second with orders to abort, having fought his way solo through elite KGB security just to deliver them. So far, so heroic, so out of character, right? Then Epsilon Red requested Creed to kill him anyway, as a mercy because his body, adapted for a vacuum, made it so that Earth's atmosphere was incredibly painful for him, which meant he had no way of ever getting out of his containment suit. And Creed refused, saying instead, "I know a way to really bum you out." And so, in a shock no one else saw coming, he executed Epsilon Red's pregnant wife in cold blood, leaving her to die while their infant Elena was saved via an emergency cesarean section. Why? Just to make the point that he doesn't take orders from anybody, not even when it's asking for a mercy kill. He won't kill those who want it because that's just being kind, and he's not kind. This is from Larry Hama's Team X flashbacks in Wolverine. Elena later spends years afterwards hunting him down. She's also the one who eventually removes Wolverine's memory implants, allowing him to remember everything. And later she falls in love with the ill-fated Maverick, who really can't catch a break on any medium. I do have to mention the films here, just because Fox had no clue what to do with them. The 2000 X-Men gave us Tyler Mane's Sabertooth, a near-mute slab of muscle in Magneto's Brotherhood with no shared history with Logan whatsoever. He's just there as a mindless killer. Then X-Men Origins Wolverine reset him entirely with Liev Schreiber's Victor Creed and made him Wolverine's half-brother, which is a film invention with no basis in the comics at all. Why, guys? Just why? That's the difference in one scene, though. Logan was the one who was made into a monster, and even then tries not to be. Creed volunteered and remains a monster no matter what. Lady Deathstrike. Before we get into her origins, I should point out that Yuriko Oyama has never actually been a Team X member in the mainstream comics. Her Team X inclusion comes from the animated film Hulk vs. Wolverine, and now from this latest episode of 97. In the comics, she's more of a Black Ops adjacent freelance Blade, making her way through an adamantium-obsessed landscape, and that's way more unique anyway. Her origin is tragic, but then whose isn't in the Marvel Universe? But Yuriko's is particularly underrated, I feel. She's the daughter of Lord Darkwind, the scientist who invented the adamantium bonding process in the first place, which means Wolverine is wearing her father's life's work inside his skeleton, while she has nothing left of it. Understandably, the obsession consumed her. She eventually had her own body rebuilt as a cyborg through Spiral's body shop, laced with adamantium, fitted with the elongated finger claws that are more than a match for Logan's. In a fight, she's an absolute nightmare, and what makes her worse is that she operates at extremely close range. She's fast, surgical, able to shred armor and absorb punishment that would end most people. She debuted properly as Lady Deathstrike, hunting a wounded Logan through a snowbound in New York in one of the most gorgeous issues of Claremont's run. Unfortunately, the way she's most known is probably through Kelly Hu's Deathstrike in X2, which in fact stripped everything that makes her interesting. No revenge quest, no father, barely any dialogue, and I mean no disrespect to the actress, who sold the character as best she could. But she's nothing more than Stryker's brainwashed bodyguard, chemically controlled and pointed at Logan like a gun, and ultimately killed by him. She does have the claws and fighting skill, but nothing else. Because her defining feat is the one that still makes people wince. Leading the cyborg mercenary crew, the Reavers, Yuriko ambushed Wolverine and crucified him on an X-shaped cross, then left him strung up in the Australian outback to die. Yeah, that famous image of Wolverine, which was created in Deadpool and Wolverine in 2024, is actually Yuriko's handiwork. He escaped, obviously, He also came out the other side about as broken as we've ever seen him. When somebody puts Wolverine on a cross and walks away calmly, you don't second guess her place on the team. In 97, she and Sabertooth try to bail the second things go wrong. Understandable, who wants to go against a Wolverine who's been infested with alien DNA that makes him a savage beast beyond anything he's ever been before? It's Morph who talks him into staying, and it's Yuriko who ends up helping shove a brood-infected Logan into the adamantium chamber. Maverick. Now this might be a name that even comic book fans don't know, or just carelessly overlook. But Maverick might be the most uniquely tragic figure in this entire lineup that we're dissecting here. Born Christopher Nord, operating as David North, he's an ex-intelligence operative, pulled into Team X for the same reason as everyone else. He was very good at very bad things. What makes him unusual is that he kept something the others lost. Even after the memory tampering, even after everything. Maverick held onto a conscience and a code, and that's what makes him Logan's competent ally in the Black Ops world. The professional soldier who actually understands exactly what this line of work costs and does it anyway. Powers-wise, he's an absolute bruiser with brains to match. His energy-absorbing suit lets him absorb incoming fire and kick it back out when necessary. He's got elite marksmanship, and not to mention, he's got a tactical mind that stops a mission full of feral killers from collapsing into a bloodbath. And his standout feat is something I chose with great care. And what makes it perfect is that it's not a fight. Remember that carbonadium synthesizer Logan hid in Berlin? Maverick is the one Logan trusted to guard it afterwards, and Maverick spent the rest of his life doing exactly that. In this, a severely weakened Maverick, suffering from the terminal legacy virus, is hunted by Omega Red for the device. Despite his failing health, Maverick coordinates with John Wraith and Elena Ivanova, the baby who survived her mother's brutal murder by Sabertooth, to lure Omega Red to the abandoned Weapon X facility. They successfully trap the villain before a military airstrike destroys the compound. Sure, Elena handles the hardcore stuff, but Maverick survives in spite of unsurmountable odds. Think of how powerful this image is. A dying man running on fumes, refusing to hand over the one thing that might buy him a peaceful death. Elena, so touched by his actions, declares that Creed can wait, and instead goes away with North during his terminal decline so that he doesn't die alone. Which makes his 97 exit extra brutal. Brood-infected Wolverine butchers him in a scene straight out of a slasher film, and no one really gives him a thought after that. Kane. Garrison Kane is another odd man out here, and it's worth explaining why. He was never Team X in the comics. He debuted in the Rob Liefeld and Fabian Nicieza era as a member of Cable's mercenary outfit, the Six Pack, a human soldier who lost limbs on a botched job and got rebuilt with cybernetics, as one does. But he absolutely belongs to the Weapon X machinery, and that's why he's there in 97's Team X. When the program got reactivated in the early 2000s, Wolverine refused to come back, so Weapon X conscripted everyone else instead, and Kane became the director's right hand. The wrinkle about his upgrades is that they came with a price. Every cybernetic enhancement they gave him deadened his conscience a little more. It makes sense, he looks less and less like a human and becomes less of one as well. In the battlefield, he's a walking artillery platform. His cybernetic limbs reconfigure into cannons and blades, and he has superhuman strength to boot. Funnily enough, his standout is his ending. You won't think of it from his origin, but it's actually genuinely moving. Kane clawed his conscience back, and became guilt-ridden over what he'd helped Weapon X turn into. During Cable's attack on the compound, Kane copied Madison Jeffries' technopathic powers to dismantle an entire army of boxbots, sacrificing his own life in the process due to bionic incompatibility. That's his character in a nutshell. He was a man they rebuilt specifically to stop caring to become the perfect weapon, but who ended up caring anyway when it mattered, knowing that it would lead to his end. His send-off in 97 is considerably less dignified. Mutated birds take down the chopper and Kane ends up impaled on a tree. He doesn't survive 5 minutes into the episode, which means his whole appearance is blink and you'll miss it. Morph. Morph is the strangest entry on this list because instead of just not being on Team X in the comics, they don't come from the comics at all, unlike every other person on this list. Morph was created for X-Men the Animated Series in 1992, very loosely inspired on an obscure 60s character called Changeling, and they were invented for one purpose: to be captured and die in the 2-episode premiere and prove the stakes of the show were real. Except audiences loved them so much that the show eventually brought Morph back, gave them a Mr. Sinister arc, turned them into one of the emotional pillars of the whole thing. They've since made it into the comics through the multiversal Team Exiles, but there is no Team X Morph in the back issues. He doesn't exist in 616 continuity at all, though there's still time to bring him in, somehow. So their power, which their name spoils, is total shapeshifting. They can become anyone, copy anyone, and here is where Morph differs from Mystique: imitate their physical power set. In X-Men 97, Morph is a non-binary shapeshifter whose real function on the team is emotional rather than tactical. They're the one who keeps their conscience and common sense intact, and they're also the one person in Logan's life still actively trying to save him from himself, which most other people seem to have given up on. Their standout feat has to be this Wolverine-heavy episode, and it's not a recency bias. Morph is the backbone of this episode. He's the one who stops Deathstrike and Sabertooth from walking out, who keeps faith in Wolverine even after realizing his reason for coming to the compound was a lie. Morph is the one who works out that the Brood can't survive the adamantium process, and turns Logan's selfish obsession into the solution to bring him back to himself. And Morph is the one who transforms into Cyclops, calls Logan's name, mentions Jean, and uses Wolverine's messy heart as bait to draw the monster into the chamber. They also cycle through different characters while fighting off the aliens, like quick flashes of Deadpool and Spider-Man, because of course they do. That's the joy of the character. The show can reach for literally anyone in the Marvel toy box, and it's perfectly fine because it's just Morph having a laugh mid-firefight. And then at the end, while on the way back, Morph decides to be honest in a way that few are. They say point blank that they're sad that Logan relies entirely on being an animalistic weapon. Logan, struggling to see himself as anything else, says that's all he is. Morph doesn't say anything more. They don't need to. It's beautiful because of how tragic it is. Not just Logan's inability to see himself, but Morph actually being able to see him but unable to convince it. Deadpool. If there's anyone on this list who even comes close to Wolverine's popularity, it's Deadpool. And this will absolutely piss off Logan, but it's the truth. Everyone knows Wade Wilson. But fewer people know that he has a legitimate, on-the-books Weapon X history, and it's not just X-Men Origins, thankfully. Wade, a mercenary, was dying of cancer when he signed himself over to a Weapon X-type program in exchange for a cure. He got one, sort of. The healing factor they gave him saved his life and wrecked his body and mind in the process, leaving him hideously scarred, functionally unkillable, and darkly unwell in ways the comics have mined for laughs and horror in equal measure ever since. In the various Team X lineups outside the main comics, particularly the animated Hulk vs. Wolverine, he turns up alongside Wolverine, Sabertooth, Lady Deathstrike, and Omega Red as part of the hit squad. He's the guest star of Logan's Black Ops world. Sometimes an ally, permanently a problem, always lethal. Healing factor, absurd pain tolerance, world-class swordsmanship, and a habit of destabilizing a fight through sheer noise. Which brings us, unavoidably, to X-Men Origins Wolverine. Ryan Reynolds turns up as Wade Wilson on Stryker's Team X, and he's fine. Motor mouth, katana's out, the clear pre-Deadpool Wade. And then the film takes him away, sews his mouth shut, welds swords into his arms, staples on optic blasts and teleportation and a bunch of other random powers, and calls the resulting abomination Weapon 11. The Merc with a mouth. With no mouth. In the long list of stupid decisions made by the Foxverse, this one earns the top position. It took Reynolds 6 years and a leaked test reel to undo this. For his standout, though, I'll skip to the greatest hits, so no Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe here. When the revamped Weapon X program tried to recruit Wolverine and got told exactly where to go, they went and got Deadpool instead. What follows is a series of insane high-stakes Black Ops Weapon X assignments designed specifically to test how far his loyalty would stretch. And it's one of the best uses of the character precisely because it takes him seriously as an operative rather than a witty punchline that won't die. It's not wrong to assume that Wade, when he appears, is the joke in the room. It's just that he's also, quite frequently, the last thing most people in that room will ever see. John Wraith, Kestrel. Who could be more of a secret weapon than the guy that nobody knew had power? And that's John Wraith in Team X. Wraith, who went by the codename Kestrel, was a CIA operative and one of the original Team X roster alongside Logan, Creed, Maverick, Silver Fox, and Mastodon. His mutation is phase jumping. Silent, traceless teleportation over enormous distances. No flash, no bang, nothing. And he was so paranoid, so thoroughly poisoned by the spy game, that he hid his powers from his own teammates. And I don't mean for a little while, but for years. He'd only use it when nobody was looking. His house was a death trap. He trusted no one. And given the company he kept, I can't really blame him. He was basically the poster boy for paranoia. The first time Team X found out what he could do was the Berlin job we've already mentioned before. Wraith stalled Omega Red with nothing but a gun while the others escaped. And when Red moved to tear him apart, he blinked out of there at the last possible second, with only Logan and Omega Red noticing it. He's also the moral one, which doesn't mean a lot with the rest of the team is what it is. By moral, I don't mean that he's not as violent as the rest when needed to be, but I mean that he's got no appetite for slaughtering innocents, which put him permanently at odds with characters like Sabertooth. He once left Creed sitting in his basement with charges strapped to his chest for a long time just to make a point. Although John Wraith was first apparently killed by Sabertooth and then allegedly killed again by Wolverine, aka a demon-possessed Wolverine, he was subsequently resurrected during the Krakoan era. Then, last year, this forgotten Cold War ghost walked back in and stole the show. Quick context. Professor X had broken out of prison and was making a run for space, and the X-Men split down the middle over whether to stop him or help him. Sage, on the helping side, had gone through her list of teleporters and picked Wraith precisely because his power has a no-tell, no bamf, no light, nothing to see coming. So what happens is that he turns up piloting a giant mech borrowed from Storm's flying sanctuary and starts trading blows with a kaiju-sized demon magic summon. If you think that that's his strongest feat, just wait, we're not done. Cyclops soon realizes Xavier is hidden on a second ship and throws everything he has at it, including his own teammate Temper, a mutant who fires off ice and fire. In the microsecond before she connects with the hull, the entire ship simply isn't there anymore. Wraith has teleported the ship thousands of tons, gone, instantly. Kid Omega's only response is, no one's that OP, but apparently Kestrel is. How many underrated Marvel characters do you know who can move an entire spaceship? Silver Fox. Silver Fox is the member of Team X who's nothing except who she's associated with, by which I mean she doesn't really get to be a person, and that's precisely the point of her. Kayla Silver Fox, one of the First Nation Blackfoot Confederacy, was the woman Logan loved. This was back in the 1900s, and then Sabertooth came and killed her. And if that wasn't bad enough, this happened on Logan's birthday. Our man James cannot catch a break. We see the flashback in one of the all-time great Wolverine issues, and of all the things Wolverine has endured, this becomes the most foundational wound. Taylor fridging is probably a standout moment of Silver Fox. Except it's a lie, or it might be. It's never really fully confirmed either way, and it remains a mystery for Logan too. Larry Hama's Team X run later revealed Silver Fox alive. Not only that, she's revealed to be a Team X operative herself. This is when the final bomb dropped. The death Logan had been carrying for decades may have been a memory planes. Then the Team X flashbacks layered in her betrayal of the squad, so Logan doesn't even get to keep the version where she was innocent. It's devastating in so many ways, and he doesn't even get any comfort. There's no Morph here. So yeah, Silver Fox isn't on this list for firepower or her other abilities, which include artificial healing factor, decelerated aging, and advanced longevity. She's here because she's the proof of the worst thing Weapon X did, which is to weaponize love, take the one relationship that made Logan human, and turn it into a convenient lever to be pulled whenever it wanted him to be quiet and compliant. Fred Dukes, or Blob. No, I'm not joking. This guy's actually named Blob, but that massively undersells his ability. Anyway, so Blob, aka Fred Dukes, has no Team X history in the comics. None. He's a heavy-set Brotherhood of Evil Mutants member, one of Magneto's original goons, a carnival strongman who spent 60 years getting punched around by the X-Men. His Team X membership is a film invention. Yeah, you guessed it, it's X-Men Origins Wolverine in 2009, where Stryker's squad was Wolverine, Sabertooth, Wraith, Agent Zero, Chris Bradley, and Fred for some reason. So we'll have to get to the movie lore for this character here, and I'll admit it's a clever bit of repurposing. Blob's mutation is his own gravitational field, which makes him functionally immovable. Not just heavy, he's basically a ship anchor fitted to the body of a man. You can't lift him, push him, or budge him if he doesn't want to move, and his body absorbs impact like wet cement, which means you can't fight him, not with bullets or fists. You can see how having a human wall like that would be great for a Black Ops squad. Blob blocks corridors, soaks fire meant for people for whom it's definitely fatal, and goes through obstacles the subtle members would have to go around. And since his Team X credentials are film only, I'm gonna say that his standout may as well have been the one real scene from the film. Logan finds Fred at Wraith's boxing gym, and Fred has just gone completely to seed with a beer belly and is deeply sensitive about it. Logan makes a fat joke. Bad idea. What follows is Wolverine getting battered around a boxing ring by a man he can't hurt because every punch just sinks harmlessly into all that mass. Logan only wins it by switching focus and hammering the head, the one part of Fred that's actually vulnerable. That's right, Wolverine's adamantium skeleton healing factor, best there is at what he does, he gets stonewalled by a big guy who just refuses to move. I suppose that's the interesting part of this bizarre choice in the film. A character we've always seen as nothing more than a lumbering Brotherhood thug being repurposed as a government-heavy artillery. Same man, same power, just used in ways you hadn't thought of before. Which is, when you think about it, the entire thesis of Team X. Chris Bradley, aka Bolt. Yeah, I had to end the list with the most unknown of them all. Believe me, he's last, but certainly not least. Chris Bradley's powers came about in the middle of a high school day, and he's yet another of Marvel's many electric-themed suits. He's got electrical manipulation, the ability to drain power, fry electronics, throw lightning from his hands, and wrap himself in an aura that literally shocks. The X-Men found him and offered him a place at the school, and just when things seemed like it was going to be okay, he got the worst news imaginable. He'd contracted the terminal legacy virus. But here's where it becomes a tragedy. The man who took him in, who helped his family disappear when anti-mutant thugs came for them, who became his mentor and closest friend, was Maverick, another legacy virus sufferer. And when Maverick vanished and was presumed dead, Chris didn't waste his time grieving and wallowing. He infiltrated the Weapon X descendant terror cell, Gene Nation, to sabotage it from within. And in the wreckage of that mission, he ran into an Agent Zero he didn't recognize, who didn't recognize him either. Zero, believing Chris was a terrorist, killed him. As he lay dying in Zero's arms, he spoke his final words, that he only wanted Maverick's name to live on and to make him proud. And that was when Zero pulled off the other man's mask and realized what he'd done. Because we already know, but Chris did. Agent Zero was Maverick, David North, not dead at all, but tortured and reprogrammed, and now wielded against the boy who idolized him. Chris died without ever knowing that. Just talking about it makes me feel choked up. On this list, I think this might be the most devastating one because it comes from the worst possible kind of miscommunication and mistrust. All right, guys, that's the full hit squad. You know what strikes me looking at the whole roster? Is how few of them chose any of this, be it in the movies or comics or the animated show. Kane was rebuilt to stop caring. Bradley died honoring the same mentor who killed him. Morph is only in it because of his intense loyalty and care for Wolverine, which might go deeper than just friendly affection. Team X has never really been a true team. It's just a quick way of turning people into expendable tools. Let me know down in the comments which member you want a full deep dive on and whether you think Morph is going to forgive Wolvie.